a giant, squishy, plushy Spheal ball. Bowling. I've been making life-size Pokemon for a couple years now, and I've gone to several events with some of them. I've made full-scale replications of classic games with them, and what I have learned is that Spheal is by far the world's favorite of my creations. So, I figured it deserved its very own game. I recently swapped out the 3D printed skeleton that it had for an exercise ball, so now it is soft and squishy and durable. And this added durability really opened up a lot of doors for potential games that we could play. And the first one that came to mind was just bowling. And I liked it. Bowling seems really simple. There's no tech necessary that could break down, and it's interactive. It sounds fun, so let's go with bowling. Now, simple as the concept may be, there are still a lot of details I'm going to need to work out here, starting with what are the bowling pins going to be? I feel like they should be Pokemon, and given who I am, I would like for them to be life-sized. Now, I did poll my social media about this, and you, the audience, decided that the most bowling pin Pokemon were Badoo, Bonsly, Gourgeist, or Snorunt. So, we can start there. All of those Pokemon can be made life-size fairly reasonably, so that's good. But I don't know how any of them are going to interact as bowling pins. I don't know how bowling down plushies with a plushie is going to work at all. And I'm not going to know until we run some test trials. So let's just go ahead and start off by making a few of these Pokemon pins and go from there. Okay, we have some bowling pin target prototypes. So first off, Badoo. I will say just from the process of making Badoo, it was simple and pretty quick, pretty easy, relatively enjoyable. So Badoo, I like as a like shape of a pin, and quite frankly, I would be happy to make 10 of these for a full set of pins. So just from the construction, Badoo so far is doing pretty good. Gourgeist was a patterning nightmare that I hope never to relive. It took a long time. It was more frustrating than it was fun, and I'm reasonably happy with how it turned out, all said and done, but I don't want to make a set of them. I don't think I will not be making a full set of them, I don't think. Bonsly, somewhere in the middle. It was not a disaster by any means like Gourgeist, but it does take longer than Badoo. It does take more materials than Badoo. So we'll have to see how it works as a target. My biggest concern is just its ability to like stand up and be reset. I did put a 3D printed disc in the base, thinking that that would help give it like a rigid base. But it ended up maybe not being centered as it turns out, so it might have backfired. But we'll play test it and we'll see. And then finally we've got Snorunt back here. It's clearly not finished. I'm working on his jacket. Snorunt is a very simple shape, pretty simple and easy to make, but it is taking a long time. So even though I wouldn't mind making more of them, I just don't think I'll be able to make more of them, but we'll see how it goes. Now you might be wondering, why are we talking about all of these now when they're not even fully finished yet? And that is because I actually have a rehearsal space booked for today so that we can go and test out the game. So everything needed to be finished to the point of a functional prototype so that we can at least play around and observe how it will interact as a game piece. And then, you know, all the cosmetics and those types of details can still be finished later. I just needed the information on what I need to make more of, or what I need to tweak or alter or edit, so that I can work all of that into the process as we finish up all of these things and perhaps have to open them up and reweight and whatever. So that is why we're discussing them now. And we're actually gonna head to that space right now. I think this could be some fun, so let's give this game a try. Okay, so we have 3 main criteria that we're judging each of these on as a potential like pin in bowling today. So the things that we want to look for are 1, how easy is it to knock over with a Spheal? 2, how easy or hard is it to reset after it's been knocked over? And 3, how much interference does it provide when a Spheal hits it? You know, will it be able to be used as like a block if it's in front of another target? That type of thing, which could be good or bad for the game depending on the mode we set up. It's just information that we need to make those decisions. Oh, and speaking of functional prototypes, we've got the beginnings of a little baby Spheal here. It's like about half the size maybe of our real Spheal, of our full-size, life-size Spheal over here. And I just thought that would be another fun addition to gameplay, another customization we can play around with. So, baby Spheal for today. Let's throw them. Let's talk about them. So starting with Badoo, I really like it, like aesthetically. I think it looks very cute as a bowling pin, and I would like to make a few more to have like a full set of them. That being said, it was a little bit hard to reset, particularly this one because it is more top heavy. The newer ones that I've made are a bit better proportioned to an actual Badoo, and they're a bit easier to set up, particularly because I decided to try adding some beams. Like these are just kind of plastic pellets to weight it down, made it a lot easier to set up. So that was good. So I think Badoo is a win. Bonsai did not really pass the durability test very well. This is a very vulnerable spot. The frame kind of wire support is popping out the back. So that wasn't great, but as a target, I think Bonsai has a lot of promise. So if we can find some ways to better reinforce this, I think he'll still make it into the final game. Snorunt was an interesting one. I thought that Snorunt might be a good fit because it would have a bit more stability than the other targets. It would be more of a challenging target, which it is. So there could be something there. This is, I would say Snorunt is ranking high on that 3rd category in terms of like interference. We had a couple times where Spheal actually just rolled right over it and didn't knock it down. So that was, I think, interesting, but there's no real satisfaction to knocking it over. Sometimes you would hit it and it kind of like ends up at this 45-degree angle that's not actually knocked over, but it's not really standing up. So is it fun to play with? Hard to say for sure. And then finally Gorgeist. Fairly easy to set up, although just the general construction I'm not the most thrilled with just how like it looks and stands and flops. But it's easy enough to set up, and it is a very satisfying knockdown. So we have her. I think we'll probably end up with putting her in the game, but I will not be making more. Okay, and as for our baby Spheal, this I would say is a success. This is pretty fun to have as an option, to have the 2 different sizes, to be able to choose, you know, maybe strategize. You know, you can get more power with your big Spheal shots, but they take more power to get that distance, whereas maybe with a smaller Spheal you get a little bit more finesse. And it opened up some doors for some interesting game modes that we played around with today. So we're liking, I'm really liking the idea of having this 2-player mode where
one person gets to play a bit of interference using the smaller Spheal. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for people. So yeah, definitely going to finish this guy up and make sure that both of them are available for that final game.
Anyways, lots of good information gained today. I think it's time to head home and make some improvements.
Okay, so first things first, we need to make some more of the bean bags that are going to weigh down the Badoos. So I'm just using some scrap fabric here and stitching it into a little pouch and then filling it up with those plastic poly pellets, sewing that closed, and bam, got a little bean bag.
Okay, we now have 6 fully finished Badoo here, all of them with beans in their butt. And I have decided that this is going to be our core set of bowling pins for the game. Now, as for Bonsly over here, this is a fragment of a hula hoop. Now, originally, this was part of my Ekans ring toss game. It was the hoop inside of the crocheted Ekans, but then all of the hoops ended up breaking when we ran the game, so then I had to replace all of those hoops with new hoops, and I kept the fragments thinking that I could repurpose them. And here we are! So that, something just like this, is precisely what is now inside of Bonsly. You can kind of see a little bit of the sparkle poking through there. But that piece is quite rigid, and it does run all the way from the top of the bud all the way down to the base now, as opposed to before when we had the wire structure that only kind of went in part way. So I think that's going to be a lot more stable. It should hold pretty well. Other than that, I finished up the baby Spheal, I finished up the Snorunt, and I think we're ready to run this game at Tricon.
So this is the final pin lineup I settled on for the event. We have our core set of Badoo up front, and then for our back row, 3 of them are as we planned, and then I just subbed in Mimikyu because I didn't love any of the other stand-ins that we played around with at our test run, and we needed a 4th. Mimikyu already had a weighted base to make it easy to stand up, so Mimikyu it is. Bonsly remained structurally solid, but with the free flap and counterweight missing, it proved extremely difficult to stand up. It seldom felt worth it. Snorunt, it was perhaps more stable with the addition of its cloak than it even was in the trial, but we did have fun placing him as a mid-lane obstacle for a challenge mode, and people seemed to like that. And let me tell you, people had fun playing Spheal bowling.
I never liked you anyways! Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
Do this!
We had fun playing around with it too, actually. We experimented with some new throw styles, maybe some new game modes like Spheal billiards bowling. And we just goofed around the con a bit too with our life-size Spheal because we can. All in all, it was a really fun weekend and a big success for the game. And hey, if you like the looks of Spheal Bowling, make sure you are subscribed or following any of my social accounts because we might just be coming to a convention near you one of these days.